My first direct experience with the N-word was being told by a little boy, "Your mom's a nigger lover." I was anywhere between 8 to maybe 10 years old. Me, the Alexis that many of you have worked with or gone to school with and gotten to know, was once young and raised by her white mom in an all-white town, Tilden, Illinois. My first experience with realizing everyone wasn't taught the same history and that it's okay to not know certain things as a privileged person was when my white grandma, who was born in the late 50s and raised in Kentucky, exclaimed to me, "Well, Obama isn't the first black president. What about Martin Luther King?" My first experience with being called the N-word while at a school club event was when my FFA chapter attended Ag Legislative Day at the Capitol building in Springfield, Illinois, when a kid from another chapter glanced over at our chapter and verbally questioned, "What's that nigger doing here?" My first experience with being told black people weren't allowed at a party I pulled up to was in high school by someone I went to school with my entire life. It wasn't his house that the party was at, but he came out and spread the word for his friend that supposedly the friend's dad said that no black people were allowed at this party this night. My first experience with realizing the justice system isn't just for black people was when my cousin Nyasha Lachey White was murdered in 2012 by someone also from the black community. My cousin's murderer was only given 6 years. He had already served 2 in jail, so ultimately he only served 4 years in prison. He was 18 at the time of her murder and 20 at the time of his sentencing. I am currently 24 years old to put things into perspective. He is already back in jail for something else, but has already served his time for the murder of my cousin. My first experience with realizing the healthcare system treats black people with mental health issues differently is when my cousin Bradley was asked to leave the hospital during an episode, resulting in him ultimately running in front of a truck eventually and passing away at the age of 20 years old, rather than being restrained and transferred to somewhere that he could have been helped. My first experience with being racially profiled by a police officer was in Pinckneyville, Illinois. I drove from my college town Carbondale back to Pinckneyville many times, but the only difference this day was that the passenger in my car was my black friend. Once the cop realized that we were aware of him racially profiling us, he let us know, "I've been in this line of work 14 years and I've never had anything come back on me yet." Think about that statement. I've worked in this line of work for 14 years and I've never had anything come back on me yet. I recall this statement verbatim due to not just what he said, but how he said it, and with what confidence and pride. My first experience with being groped in public by a white man was last summer, while waiting in line to get in a bar in Colorado Springs, the Mansion. This man, of whom I still do not know the name of, was with his white partner, a woman of whom I also don't know. After he stood there mimicking me when I was telling him to not touch me, and having a conversation based around why it wasn't okay, his girlfriend eventually stated he liked it, so he touched it. The security still let him in the bar that night. This is the same club that my brother, months before, was told that he couldn't wear a camouflage hat into because it's potentially disrespectful to our service members. Think about that. They would rather police what someone is wearing than to not allow someone in who is groping women in line. Some of you may be wondering, how do some of these experiences relate to business? This is LinkedIn. The last first experience that I would like to share is my first time being asked by a white coworker during a work meeting, "How often do you wash your hair?" was last fall. Though the type of microaggressions that I may have brought up are things that may be seen as harmless in the white community, they are harmful. The things that are said in these meetings matter. The things that are shared on platforms such as LinkedIn matter. The things that are never said, the ways that we feel and can never really share with you all matter, which is why I'm choosing to share these things now. Oftentimes, we in the black community are often made to feel out of place daily due to microaggressions in the workplace. We're often overlooked in the hiring process even when qualified due to affinity bias, which is a hiring manager hiring someone out of them looking like them and seeming like them and them feeling like they'd get along great as coworkers. Are often viewed as a token hire by people who don't really realize that we're more than qualified for our position. We're expected to work twice as hard for half the recognition, and not only that, but we have to be on our game at literally all times. I can recall myself personally rereading emails a million times before ever pressing send out, like due to feeling like every move I make and every breath I take is being surveilled and that my job security is always on the line, whereas my white counterparts can be very reckless with some of their work and never think twice about it. And at times, a lot of us in the Black community in these workplaces are often alone in this effort if there are no other Black people or people of color within our workspace who truly get how we feel, allowing us to be able to talk with these people. This oftentimes causes us to either, some people choose to assimilate and suppress how they actually are and who they really are, or it may cause a lot of us to burn out, to go mad, to quit. When I say Black Lives Matter, I mean each word holistically. We must change, if not eradicate, systems that we currently use due to them not working anymore, if some of them ever really even did. Black Lives Matter when we are talking about the justice system, the education system, the healthcare system, the political system. In regard to the justice system, a few of the things that I believe we can do is make laws and policies that reflect the times. Hold police accountable for police brutality and no more not being held accountable. Police are not above the law. Revamping, if not eradicating and starting anew, the American policing system. Creating trainings that actually allow for these officers to understand people of which they do not have within their social circles and may not understand and view as a threat because they don't understand us and they've never interacted with us. Ensuring that Black and brown people are given fair justice when violence is inflicted upon them, regardless of the race of the individual of whom inflicted their violence. Eradicating the prison industrial complex designed to more so blatantly exemplify modern-day slavery. When it comes to the healthcare system, a few of the things that we need to do are start believing Black people and other people of color in regard to health issues. Some of you may be wondering, what am I even talking about? Well, for an example and a starter for you to look into things, I want you to look into Black women and medical negligence causing them to miscarry due to not being believed with certain symptoms that they have things going on. Not seeing and treating Black people as animals when having mental health episodes, but rather the same as you would see any other patient, perhaps their white counterparts. Making quality healthcare accessible for Black people and all U.S. citizens. In regard to the education system, we need to be teaching real Black and African American history in U.S. schools. Black American history is American history. Making Black and African American history a part of the regular curriculum and not as a specialized elective only accessible for those in certain types of educational institutions or those in honors courses or those at certain levels of education. We need reparations in many forms, but especially including the workforce development of Black people. We need reparations in many forms, including grants for Black individuals to become business owners, because integration ultimately killed, for the most part, the Black business owners. And we need to overturn or reform the current standardized testing that really just upholds, again, these systems that are used to oppress and keep down Black people and other people of color socially. In regards to the political system, we need federally funded programs that are designed for Black people and people of color to learn about and to be able to infiltrate the American political system in order for a more balanced and sensible political system. We need to take money out of American politics ultimately. So when I say Black Lives Matter, again, I mean that holistically. Black Lives Matter. We are leaders, we are business partners, we are customers, we are clients, we are patients, we are colleagues of yours. Our ancestors were builders of this very nation. We deserve justice, we deserve peace, and I ask you all to please educate, donate, and evaluate. Educate yourself if you lack knowledge pertaining to Black people. Educate your friends, family members, colleagues, children about race, about oppression, about realities that Black people face in America, that other people face in America. Donate to Black organizations, buy from Black business owners. Evaluate your board. It's not enough to have one Black person on your board. You need diversity within your diversity. Evaluate your hiring managers. It's not acceptable to have someone who doesn't understand the value of having a diverse team in these hiring roles. Evaluate your suppliers. It's not acceptable to only break bread with people who look like you, to only buy things from people who look like you, to only work with people who look like you, to only receive these special services from people who just look like you. Evaluate your core values. It's not enough to just throw diversity and inclusion on your website. What are you actually doing to ensure that people have a workspace that includes diversity within people, diversity within thought, and inclusive practices? Even having a diversity and inclusion department in itself is not enough if the people at your place of work truly do not feel as though they can come do their job without a lingering cloud of oppression hanging over them. Evaluate your events. It is not enough to only throw events at predominantly white spaces. It is not enough to only be doing predominantly white activities if you truly hope to foster a sense of inclusivity for those that you serve. Evaluate yourself. What type of people are you interacting with? In the shows you watch, what do the people look like? What are they doing? What about the music you listen to, the literature you read, the businesses you support? If you felt guilty at any point during any of this talk, I encourage you to sit with your awkwardness and let it seep in so that you can actively work toward arming yourself with knowledge pertaining to the Black community in order to genuinely seek change. Google is free. Diversity and inclusion consultants exist. This is more than a PR stunt. This is more than not posting anything, but only posting a square in solidarity. This is more than posting a generic post because you can't publicly admit that you don't know what you don't know and listing how you are going to work toward becoming better. This is more than a week's worth of breaking news coverage. This is systemic oppression and genocide placed upon Black people for centuries, something that is going to take a lot of changes in order to see any real differences. What may cause you 10 minutes of awkwardness for you to strike up a conversation during a meeting or when posting to your social media or when talking to friends and family may be upholding a lifetime of discomfort for Black people who are only in this position due to you not yielding your privilege and speaking out on these injustices and holding your fellow people accountable. For more information on how you can further stay in the know of modern Black civil rights leaders, on how to educate yourself, on where to donate to Black businesses and organizations, and etc., please drop a comment below to follow this post, as I will drop a resource list for you to begin your journey, though the rest will be on you. This is your job to educate yourself. With love and light, Alexis.